It's the awakening ceremony at the Awakeners Academy, where students receive their spirit contract weapons. The proctor evaluates the sword of the first student as C rank, nothing impressive. Then comes Xiaomei, who visibly struggles before producing a blood-stained silver spear with the trait of an immortal fairy spirit, clearly an S-rank spirit contract, something the Academy hasn't seen in years. Everyone knows that if she pairs up with another S-rank spirit holder, they'd be unstoppable. Xiaomei walks up to Han Zhan, her current boyfriend, and coldly declares they should break up, claiming her S-rank status is no longer a match for his spirit contract. Before coming here, Han Zhan had been a total yes-man to Xiaomei, doing whatever she wanted, even at the cost of his self-respect. In this age of spirit contracts, Han Zhan realizes now that strength is more important than anything. He didn't come here to stay the same yes-man like the other guys flocking to Xiaomei, all underestimating him just like she did. Determined to unlock an S-rank or higher ability himself, even if it's rare, Han Zhan steps forward. When everyone doubts if he can awaken anything at all, Han Zhan doesn't just awaken an S-rank spirit contract. He awakens an SSS-level spirit contract, a once-in-a-100-year occurrence. The last SSS Spirit Master had helped humanity secure a foothold in the losing war against the insect hordes, but their passing meant a full victory was never achieved. Upon watching Han Zhan's incredible feat, girls flock to him as potential spirit contract matches, but he isn't interested, seeing them all as nothing but a nuisance. Xiaomei approaches him too, looking for reconciliation, and offering him a higher status than a yes-man. He is able to see all hidden information on her spirit contract, thanks to his divine insight ability. Han Zhan rejects her offer and decides to use divine insight to look for suitable spirit contracts. Now it's Xiaomei who gets teased by other girls for having the confidence to ask him back after dumping him without a word. They say no one would have paid attention to her if it weren't for the campus's prettiest girl, Xia Yue, having unlocked only an E-level talent, which was a rarity in itself. Xia Yue's spirit contract was considered useless, and no one thought she would pass the evaluation, let alone find a spirit partner. Feeling disheartened, Xia Yue attempts to leave but ends up bumping into Han Zhan. He observes her spirit contract using his divine insight, and is surprised to find that her form, Fuxi Qin, one of the 10 ancient divine artifacts, is somehow a mere E rank. She immediately apologizes, but Han Zhan simply behaves sympathetically and invites her to become his exclusive spirit contract, which surprises her and everyone around them. They all think he's crazy for supposedly demoting his own rank by doing so. Even the principal of the academy, Chen Guanpu, interjects, warning him not to take the matter lightly because of attraction, and reminding him that he's destined to be humanity's savior. Suddenly, Zhao Hu, Xiaomei's godfather and the guardian of Deep Blue City, shows up and accuses Han Zhan of bullying his goddaughter using his SSS rank. He threatens him with his influence, saying he'll make sure no one forms a contract with him for his arrogance. Han Zhan isn't fazed and asks if his goddaughter is even worthy, which angers both of them. Zhao Hu attempts to hit him but is stopped by the principal, who reminds him of Han Zhan's SSS rank. Zhao Hu only lets him go on the condition that he forms a contract with Xia Yue only, and not anyone else with a higher rank. Han Zhan accepts the punishment happily and asks Xia Yue to come with him to form the spirit contract. Han Zhan forms the spirit contract with Xia Yue, who transforms into her spirit form and then back. The contract itself displays incredible SSS power, synchronizing killing, recovery, and other abilities, allowing Xia Yue to achieve an SSS rank as well. She's beyond grateful to Han Zhan. Meanwhile, Xiaomei is busy complaining to her godfather about the humiliation she suffered at Han Zhan's hands. Zhao Hu promises her that he'll make Han Zhan pay during tomorrow's Spirit Contract Master Assessment in Deep Blue City, but only on one condition, one Xiaomei knows all too well. Back at their usual spot, Zhao Hu is already scheming, getting someone to post slander about Han Zhan on the forums, calling him a parasite recklessly wasting academy resources, and he vows to do much worse at the assessment. While Han Zhan and Xia Yue are grabbing food, other students gossip behind their backs, especially mocking Xia for being an E rank but still managing to get an SSS contract because of her looks. Xia feels apologetic, but Han Zhan tells her to have more confidence, and the two quickly become good friends. They're interrupted by Xiaomei's spirit contractor Wang Lumao, who smugly tells Han Zhan he's not all that. Xiaomei casually warns Wang Lumao not to waste his time with Han Zhan, saying he'll be exiled and demoted soon anyway. They leave for the assessment afterward. The proctor announces the start of the assessment and its rules. Each stage has different difficulty levels, and passing even one stage means success. Xiaomei and Wang Lumao go first, facing a 7th difficulty black moth bug. Xiaomei transforms into her blood-stained silver spear, and Wang Lumao uses it to strike 3 times before finally stabbing the moth dead. The crowd cheers at how easily the S-level contract takes down the black moth, showing off its power. The district heads watching the assessment from their room aren't all that impressed though. The first district head says their struggle shows they're inferior even to laborers, while the second district head, Lin Jingxuan, thinks Xiaomei should have killed the moth in a single strike. Failing to do so suggests her spiritual power is weak due to a lack of discipline in her daily life, which Zhao Hu's expression somewhat confirms. Xiaomei's team breaks the previous difficulty 6 record, and now everyone's itching to see what Han Zhan will do after supposedly demoting himself. Han Zhan and Xia Yue step into the battleground. The door opens, revealing a difficulty 1 test, yet it comes with 10 black moth bugs to defeat. Han Zhan is confused about why a difficulty 1 test has so many bugs. Others are already whispering that this must be a targeted setup, and that Han Zhan deserves it for being foolish enough to contract an E rank. The proctor, clearly approached by Zhao Hu to make the test as tough as possible for Han Zhan, claims that SSS ranks will naturally face tougher trials. Now Han Zhan is standing face to face with the swarm of monsters, which he must defeat. Han Zhan smirks and tells Xia to get to it. She transforms into her Fuxi Qin spirit form, and Han Zhan grabs the instrument and plays a tune with it. The next second, a blinding light bursts out in all directions, and before anyone can react, all the black moths are shredded to pieces. Everyone is left speechless, wondering how the hell an E-rank contract could cause an instant kill like that. Wei Qing, the head of the first district, is especially impressed. He's taken down multiple moths in 30 seconds before, but in 1 second is not something he sees every day. Zhao Hu admits he cranked up the difficulty so the higher talent wouldn't go to waste, but deep down, he's beyond confused at how powerful Han Zhan really is. Wei Qing agrees the test is fine and that the younger generation should pull their weight. Their teacher tells them to keep the assessment going, wanting to test Han Zhan's limits. The difficulty increases to 20 black beetles, which obviously have thicker skin. Han Zhan plays the Song of Broken Intestines, and the result is the same, complete annihilation when the beetles approach. Han Zhan mocks how easy the test is, which doesn't sit well with the other students. Wei Qing applauds him, hoping he'll join the first district. But third district leader Ye Kui disagrees, arguing that the first district is for frontline soldiers and isn't the best place for new recruits. Wei doesn't appreciate Ye's comments. Fourth district leader Shen Jeki jumps in, saying both their districts aren't right for Han Zhan, and he should start with relic exploration in his district instead, which earns him an instant disapproval from the two. Their superior shuts them up and asks second district leader Jing Xuan for his opinion. Jing Xuan thinks sheer numbers are useless against Han Zhan's music, which can restrict the movement of insects even with thick skin. He suggests cranking the difficulty up to the highest standard from the old tests, and their superior approves it. The highest difficulty test is announced: 20 second-tier beasts, 10 giant armored lizards built for defense, and 10 thunderbirds designed for offense. Even the students think it's way beyond what a first-tier spirit master can handle, but Han Zhan's as confident as ever. The beasts charge at him, and Han Zhan plays a song that summons armored soldiers with weapons. The soldiers charge head-on, clashing with the armored lizards, but the birds retaliate with their thunder charge, wiping the soldiers out. Han Zhan then plays the breakthrough song. To everyone's shock, he dives headfirst into the thunderbirds' attack, using his power to clear them all. It's an insane feat, a first-tier master taking down multiple second-tier beasts. Everyone thought Han Zhan was a monster for winning back-to-back, especially at such a high difficulty. It only took him 2 moves to defeat the creatures, his speed boosted significantly by his incredible musical skills. Wei Qing asks if the girl with him is really E rank. Their superior calls their butler, Afu, who has the ability to confirm Xia Yue's position. Turns out Xia's in the same boat as Ling Zheng, who was also identified as E rank. But Xia's talent surpasses that since she formed a contract with Han Zhan. They consider having Ling Zheng meet Han Zhan too. Han Zhan demands for the challenge to continue, much to the proctor's surprise. The level 4 test reveals new beasts, which Han Zhan eliminates with little difficulty once again. Level 5, level 6, 7, 8. Han Zhan plays the tune of destruction on his instrument and clears all of them. The proctor tells him to stop, but Han Zhan refuses, even going as far as taking on the level 10 challenge featuring a third-rank creature. Even Wei Qing didn't go beyond level 9, and he already broke a 100-year-old record. Jing Xuan applauds Han Zhan's talent, even considering bringing him to District 2, but Wei Qing doesn't take that well. The proctor declares that Han Zhan is unlikely to clear level 10 in his worn-out condition, but all Han Zhan asks for is a little time to recover. The rules allow only a 5-minute rest between rounds, and Han Zhan uses that time to play a song that gives him instant recovery. Everyone is amazed by Han Zhan's rare and incredible combination of offense, defense, and recovery, a force to be reckoned with for sure. Wei Qing and Jing Xuan are still bickering over which district Han Zhan will join, their dangerous spirit energy clashing in the process. But then another contender steps in, Liu Jingchun, head of the 5th district, expressing his concerns about a multi-talented spirit contractor being sent to the front lines. He suggests Han Zhan join the 5th district, believing his presence there will greatly reduce the death rate of spirit contractors on the battlefield. Wei and Jingxuan respond by unleashing even more spirit energy, which their superior disperses with a single punch, breaking up their fight. Their superior is clearly frustrated with the infighting among the 8 major districts of Daxia, each with its own unique duties and responsibilities. The first district excels in battles, the second in strategy, the third in territory expansion, the fourth in exploration, the fifth saves lives, the sixth guards key passes, the seventh covers oceans, and the eighth works from the shadows. They're all essential to Daxia's stability, even though their teacher once considered creating a 9th district, but never fully pursued the idea. Jingxuan then asks if Hanzhan could actually lead it. The 3rd grade beast, Zerg, also called the Red Flame Beast, emerges. The test requires withstanding its attacks for 3 minutes straight. The beast is insanely strong, and its heat waves are even more powerful, sending the audience flying back. But Hanzhan is still standing tall. With Xia's unconditional support, he has nothing to fear. He charges toward the monster, which roars a flame attack at him, but he dodges it. The tune he plays is 1,000 Miles of Joyful Wind, perfectly blending righteous spirit energy. He summons powerful winds that throw everyone back and charges into the fight again. The wind surrounds and effortlessly kills the flame beast. The audience is left completely mind-blown, as Hanzhan has just set an unbreakable record with this kill. Xiaomei and Lu Mao can't hide their jealousy at his incredible performance. Although the victory doesn't come without consequences for Hanzhan. Lin Jingxuan applauds Hanzhan and introduces himself, welcoming him to the second test space as planned. He asks a few questions, like who will win between the Zerg and humanity. Hanjin says that the Zerg might win, but humanity will not lose, an answer Lin didn't expect. When asked why he's fighting, Hanzhan says it's to protect humanity from the Zerg's wrath and to restore Daxia's glory. His answer earns him approval from the superior teacher himself this time. Lin introduced him properly as Li Shutong from the legendary Li family, who single-handedly defeated the 3 major Zerg emperors that waged war to overthrow Daxia. Li offers Hanzhan to become his disciple. Hanzhan is happy to accept the honor, and Li takes a genuine liking to him. Li gifts him a ring made from the bones of the 9th stage Zerg emperor he killed back then. The ring even has storage space. Hanzhan senses the terrifying ferocity and aura of the Zerg emperor from the ring, showing how powerful the emperor truly was. The ring Li Shutong gave to Hanzhan can easily deter smaller Zergs, but it gets more aggressive against higher-level Zergs. Because of that, Li told Zhan he didn't have to wear it all the time if he didn't want to. But Hanzhan wasn't worried about wearing such an important gift constantly, which made Li happy. Meanwhile, Jingxuan got a glare from Li for being too much of a coward to wear his own. In a good mood, Li invites Han and Xia to a meal, figuring they must be tired from their battle. At the place, they happily share a meal with the other senior brothers, introduced by Li as the leaders of the 3rd, 4th, and 5th battlegrounds. Hanzhan formally greets them all, and he's now officially a part of their family. Some other brothers, like the 6th and 7th division leaders, were either guarding the border or off overseas. The 8th brother was also missing until, out of nowhere, he shows up behind Hanzhan, hands him his number, says to call if he's ever in danger, and leaves immediately, leaving Han curious. Jingxuan presents him with gifts on behalf of all the senior brothers, things like robes and techniques he can use in battles. Their gathering is cut short by Xia Yue's aunt, who's definitely not happy seeing Xia having a good time without her. She tries to hit Xia for denying her authority, but Hanzhan steps in and bluntly asks what her deal is. The noisy aunt demands compensation for raising Xia, which infuriates Xia. She's had enough and shouts back. Her aunt, offended by Xia's newfound confidence after passing her assessment, tries to remind her of Niu's uncle's position in the 4th district. But she doesn't just stop there. She even throws shade at Li Shutong, calling him an old geezer and accusing him of being Hanzhan's grandfather trying to take Xia away without filling her pockets first. Li definitely doesn't take the geezer comment well, and immediately orders the brothers to make calls to their respective districts. Xia's aunt, still cocky, thinks her connections have her covered, but not long after, she starts getting frantic calls from those very connections, scolding her for causing trouble and cutting ties with her over it. Even that uncle from the 4th district calls to warn her to stay away from Xia and Han. She throws a tantrum, accusing the spirit contract masters of bullying a weak citizen, but Li Shutong shuts her up once he's heard enough. Xia Yue apologizes for the commotion caused by her adoptive aunt. Master Li consoles her and invites her to his house with Hanzhan since she has no family. She gratefully accepts, and they continue to dine and chat. Li talks about the 9-grid hot pot, explaining how the different grids are designed for various categories of food. Hanzhan is intrigued and asks Li if he can categorize him too, but Li simply says he can't foresee anyone's path and that Han has his own to walk. Hanzhan then asks why the companions of the senior brothers aren't present. Jingxuan asks if Han and Xia have slept together yet, explaining that doing so would allow the spirit master to gain the replication ability, enabling the companions to fight in both human and material form. Lee answers Han's question that the brothers' wives are currently away, fighting on their behalf on the front lines. The brothers also question if Sia is really an E-rank companion. Han confirms it, but adds that he wouldn't have chosen an E-rank companion carelessly if she didn't possess one of the 10 ancient divine artifact spirit forms. He explains that he awakened it using one of his special abilities, which caused her to become SSS rank. Li Shutong warns Han Zhan not to mention this ability to anyone else except them, and orders Jingsuan to secure Han and Xia's information with the highest security. One of the brothers reports that Daxia has won a 19th consecutive battle against the insect army, reclaiming 6 lost territories and successfully investigating the causes of the insect outbreaks. Everyone celebrates even more after hearing such good news. Han and Xia head to their new place with a drunken Li. Han is surprised to find it's located in Deep Blue City, which Li reveals is his wife's hometown. She died in battle. Li is saddened by the fact that everyone remembers him as the victor and slayer of 3 emperors in the war, but no one remembers his wife's role in it. He tells Han to value Xia not as a weapon or a spirit contract, but as a human and a great companion. Han promises to take care of Xia. He asks for the name of Li's wife, saying he'll remember her even if no one else does. Li says her name was Ling Mei, who killed 2 emperors while he only killed 1. She died before being honored for saving Daxia. Li sits alone with her photo by his side, watching the moon and reminiscing about the times he spent with her. Han and Xia join him, and seeing them makes Li happy because they remind him of his bond with Mei. Li decides to teach Han a technique to protect his loved ones. He teaches Han his most skilled technique that destroys a nearby tree with a single strike. The 8-lock fist technique uses the 8 points in the human body, and unlocking their potential results in a powerful attack. Han masters it immediately. Even Wei Qin, one of the senior brothers, couldn't unlock the points for 6 months, yet Han claims he found them through pure intuition. Lai comes at Han with other combat techniques, supposedly more difficult, throwing Han Zhan back when he gets hit. Li reminds Han not to get arrogant just because he's a genius, but Li was definitely enjoying teaching a genius by roughing him up. The next day at Qingteng Academy, Han Zhan is holding his jaw in pain, earning a concerned look from Xia. They're approached by Wang Lumao and his lackeys, who mock him out of jealousy over his victory at the assessment. Han ignores them and heads to the principal's office. He's been ordered to join the Guardian organization and drafted to the front lines of Deep Blue City. The principal sympathizes with Han, probably thinking it's a waste of his talent, but Han doesn't mind. Maybe this is the path he has to walk himself. On his way out, Lumao tests his patience again, saying Han's not better than him no matter how strong he thinks he is. Han glares at him. Lumao, ready for a fight, claims he's doubled his strength and can beat him easily to settle old scores. Han shuts him down with an attack of his own. When their fists connect, Lumao's bone shatters, and he screams in agony. Han follows up with a punch to his face, knocking him down. As Han leaves with Xia, he just says Lumao deserved it. The principal sees Lumao knocked out and calls for help while making up some excuse about what caused him to faint. Han and Xia head to the reception to report their joining of the Guardian organization. The receptionist blurts out that Lieutenant Zhao asked to make things difficult for them, but quickly backtracks, saying he'll treat their SSS rank master well. He informs them that their information's been entered, and they've been assigned to the 0527 squad with Han as its leader. The first teams oversee other Guardians and are numbered according to different districts. They're sent to their assigned office, which they find in a mess, with rubbish everywhere. A woman starts interrogating them, and Han announces himself as the new team leader. A man lying around asks why some kid is playing captain. Xia is offended, while Han wonders why someone like him is even part of the organization. The man starts harassing Xia, taking an interest in her and asking her to be his spirit contract. That earns him a punch from Han Zhan. The 2 people already living there are Yifan and Hong Yingwei. Yifan seems just as drunk and useless as the state of the team. Hong Yingwei orders Ivan to deal with the new leader and leaves. Yifan starts rambling about how the team has been at the bottom of the Guardian teams for a while, insisting that Han Zhan wouldn't want to deal with it. But Han Zhan affirms that he's here to fix things. Yifan fires back, saying that in 2 months, when the year ends, the organization will lay off the lowest-ranked teams and send them to the lower district, a barely habitable, chaotic place. He's certain that Team 0527 is doomed to end up there. Again, he tells them both to leave while they still can. Han Zhan knows that Zhao Hu is doing everything he can to force him out. Xia doesn't see much reason to stay either, but Han Zhan is determined to face the problem head-on, especially since Zhao Hu wouldn't leave him alone no matter where he goes. Hong Yingwei also tells them to leave. Han Zhan asks if she really plans to just sit back and accept their fate, calling her by her real name, Bai Shuang, which he figures out using his divine insight ability. She's caught off guard that he saw through her deception. Han Zhan believes that, despite her indifferent act, she's still trying to keep the team afloat. After all, Yifan just asked her for money earlier. She, on the other hand, is concerned about him threatening to expose her. Instead, Han Zhan simply offers her a deal, help him complete tasks to earn enough points to keep the team from ending up at the bottom. He can tell she doesn't want to end up in the lower district like Yi-fan. He even offers her half of the task rewards, leaving her with no choice but to accept. She gathers the available tasks while he picks the ones for their team. At first, the tasks she shows are low difficulty, offering only small amounts of points. Hanjan, however, chooses dangerous ones that require at least 2 teams. Bai Shuang immediately objects. Failing these tasks comes with a 10% penalty on rewards, but Hanjan insists. It's the only way to climb out of the bottom ranks. The mission involves clearing out second-tier zergs at a sewer site. Another team had planned to take on the task with a partner team since it's worth 2 months' worth of points. When they hear the task has already been taken, they're shocked and decide to watch over the sewer entrance to see who took it from them. Hanjan and his team arrive at the site. Bai warns him that the life detector has picked up at least 8 zergs nearby. Hanjan grabs Xia and rushes in without hesitation, asking Bai to stay. Bai is concerned for him going in alone when the task requires 2 teams. Suddenly, a blast erupts from the sewer tunnel. Alarmed, Bai follows him inside to see what's going on. When Bai Shuang stops and sees Hanjan and Xia standing tall, surrounded by the corpses of the zergs, she's shocked by his abilities. Hanjan notices her and asks her to collect useful materials from the bodies and take the fallen guardians back to the city. Then, he simply leaves in triumph. Soon after, the team that was supposed to take on the task arrives and counts 10 dead zergs, killed in a single strike. They wonder what kind of monster could have pulled off such an impossible feat. Zhao gets word of Hanjan's team scoring 350 points with a single task. The news enrages him, seeing that he can't easily mess with him. He asks the informant, Xiao Bei, to make sure all the other teams take on every task and leave none for Team 0527. Li Shutong asks Hanjan if he needs help with Zhao Hu getting in his way. Hanjan politely declines, saying he's more concerned with the Guardians not fulfilling their duties to the organization and rising internal conflicts. Li agrees, believing that with the organization's expansion, corruption has taken root and needs to be burned away to make room for new growth. He sees Hanjan as the perfect person for that job, though he leaves Han the choice to decide his own path. Hanjan also asks about advancing past the 8th level of the 8-fist technique. Li advises that to reach the next level, Hanjan must remember the 4 words, between life and death. After a long day's work, Hanjan lies down to rest when Xia comes to him, asking if she can sleep in his room. She says all the other rooms are locked. He doesn't question much and offers to sleep on the floor, but she finds that inappropriate since it's his bed, so they both end up sharing the bed. The next day, they head to their team's office to look for new tasks. There, Bai Shuang and Yi-fan finally address Hanjan as who he truly is, the SSS rank rookie, the strongest contract master in history. Bai immediately bows and apologizes for assuming he was just someone with connections and no real abilities. Hanjan shrugs it off as unnecessary formalities. Bai tells him it's a waste of his talents to stay in a mediocre place. Yi-fan adds that he won't be able to avoid Zhao Hu for long, as Zhao is determined to exile him. Bai then informs him that there are no tasks left for their team in Deep Blue City, for some strange reason. Hanjan suggests they change their base city and travel to other cities for tasks, though they'll likely encounter high-tier zergs along the way. As Team 0527 travels through the zerg-infested roads, they come across a first-tier zerg, a dead ash fly. Their kind operates in swarms, making their attacks especially deadly. They see a large number of them ahead, foreseeing more destruction. The swarm is following a caravan. Bai Shuang asks the leader if they should help them out. Hanjan immediately gives the signal. Bai takes a sharp turn and speeds toward the caravan. Inside the caravan, one vehicle carries an especially important person from the Shang family, Shang Siding. Her driver, who is protecting her, fails to speed up and escape the swarm. He orders the Shang family guards to execute the sacrifice plan. Siding tries to stop them, feeling guilty, but the guards are already prepared to do anything to protect her. They open fire with guns and bazookas at the swarm, causing a massive explosion. The vehicle carrying Shang Siding narrowly escapes. As she cries out in anger, a loud sound is heard, revealing Hanjan as the source. He's playing a song with the Fuxi Qing that destroys the swarm in one go. Siding and her caretaker are stunned. It's been a while since they've seen someone of such caliber. However, the storm caused by the swarm isn't gone yet. Spikes are shot from it at Hanjan, but Yi-fan steps in and takes the spikes, falling back from the impact. Hanjan quickly tries to remove them, since they're venomous and could kill him in no time, but the spikes fall out on their own. Yi-fan smirks as Hanjan realizes through his divine insight that Yi-fan is an SS-ranked spirit master. Curious about his immortality traits, Hanjan wonders if they heal him or make him invincible. Yi-fan asks if he wants to know, but Hanjan shows no interest and leaves him hanging. The team arrives at their first location, which is swarming with even more zergs. It's almost too easy for Hanjan, as the area is filled with points. He tells Xia to transform and plays a tune that sends an attack in all directions, wiping out every zerg in its path. Yitvan and Bai Shuang are both impressed by yet another one-hit kill. Back in Shanghai City, The teams watch on their monitors as tasks from their city are completed in the blink of an eye. They're left stunned, wondering when their city got such a formidable team, finishing each task in no more than 10 seconds. Initially thinking it's a frontline battlemaster, they soon realize it's a team from Deep Blue City, stealing tasks from their city. This deeply offends them. Their leader quickly gathers the first squad and heads out to teach the intruders a lesson. The leader meets with the other City Guardian team leaders, none of whom are happy with this new task bully that has emerged. They decide to join forces and take on the magic tail snake killing task to assert their dominance. But as they turn around, they find the snake has already been killed, right in front of them. The first squad leader is even more enraged and orders someone to find the team and bring them to him. He's soon informed that they've already left after submitting the task, driving off in their black pickup. At the Guardian Organization headquarters, the third-in-command officer, Su, notices a spike in task completions across Deep Blue City, Shanghai City, and the surrounding areas. His assistant informs him that a cycle of task stealing has begun, driven by a team from Deep Blue City. The officer asks him to bring the team's files and then dismisses him. The first two files are marked Top Secret, containing details about Yi Fan and Hong Yingwei, leaving the officer puzzled. When he opens the last file, about the rookie Han Zhan, he finds it's also marked Top Secret, which makes him think there's been a mistake. Just then, he receives an unexpected call from 2nd District Head Jingshuan, a figure of high authority to him. Jingshuan tells him not to look into the files any further, as they're beyond his clearance level. The officer quickly realizes that Han Zhan must be a big deal if a district head himself is getting involved. Team 0527 completes their 18th task as Han Zhan takes down another high-tier Zerg. He asks Bai Shuang to check their points, and she reports that they've collected 1,800 points. However, they're still sitting at the bottom, even though they could have easily ranked first with their kills. Han Zhan knows it's Zhao Hu causing trouble again. The second-to-last teams have 2,300 points, but so do over a dozen other teams. The only explanation is that they're manipulating the scores by agreeing to tie at a certain threshold, completing tasks together, which doesn't break the rules, and then transferring the points to the same person. Their team has been targeted from the start. Han Zhan says it's alright since they're close to the threshold anyway. Han Zhan and Xia meet their teacher, Li, who asks about their trip. Han Zhan says they got enough points but still didn't get great results. However, they managed to save a merchant caravan. Li is surprised to learn that the so-called insensitive guy mentioned by the girl from the merchant family was Han Zhan all along, and she even asked how she could become a spirit master herself. Lai explains that he's an old friend of her grandfather, and the Shang family is well known for being one of the 5 major corporations that develop high-end weapons for both spirit masters and regular people. The caravan chase was a test set up by the Shang family to see if Sighting would retreat, but clearly the plan didn't work out. Han Zhan apologizes for messing things up, but Li assures him that it's all good. The goods they were carrying were actually meant for him in the first place. Li pulls out the gift they contained, breakthrough elixirs for each of them. These elixirs will enhance their stats, including their talents, to higher levels. They both drink them and instantly gain second-tier powers. Xia gains a new divine nature after her breakthrough, which also allows Han Zhan to unlock more zither techniques, along with power surges. Han Zhan gets a call from Bai, who informs him about a new task involving wandering Zergs. A full-grown one is as dangerous as 3 third-tier Zergs. She asks if they should take on the mission. He tells her to meet him in person and leaves with Xia immediately. Lai contemplates the current situation. His butler informs him that Miss Lingjun is currently in Shanghai City but refuses to see Li. Bai Shuang meets up with Han Zhan to hear his decision. Han Zhan thinks it's a great opportunity to surpass other teams, but Bai asks him to reconsider, as even a juvenile wanderer is extremely risky to face. Han Zhan asserts that once the wanderer matures, it could threaten an entire city. Points aren't his priority here. Maintaining peace is. The sky is draped in the black veil, courtesy of the wanderer. It has the power to isolate all perceptions, creating its own domain that is completely separate from the outside world. Anything, whether alive or not, that gets engulfed by it will rapidly age and decay until it's destroyed. A team of guardians is assigned to eliminate it, but additional guardians are also tasked with the mission, as wanderers are incredibly powerful. They wait for the other guardians to show up first, acting as bait. Han Zhan and his team have already arrived. They proceed cautiously into the dark building. Inside, the presence of insectoids is overwhelming. Xia feels like someone is watching them. They can sense the oppressive force of the black veil slowly draining their energy. Previous data suggests they only have half an hour to survive and break the veil from the inside. After that time passes, they're as good as dead. Bai Shuang spots the veil in the form of a black sphere. They just need to break it. Suddenly the ground shifts, attempting to swallow them. Bi is trapped and Yi Fan is caught while trying to save her. Han Zhan tries to help them, but a wall made of living earth blocks his way. This is the second gift of the Black Veil, life-bestowed walls, opposed to the life deprivation it normally causes. Xia suggests they fight together, so they all attack the wall. However, it quickly recovers and stands strong. Suddenly, more walls rise from the ground, surrounding them and trying to trap them inside. An insectoid appears behind them, narrowly passing them before digging into the wall. Hanjan wonders if it's what he thinks it is, and they hurry to follow it. The team originally dispatched for this mission waits outside the building, expecting no new baits that could aid them now. Their captain orders them to proceed carefully. The Guardians, all third-tier spirit masters, are confident in their ability to escape safely, no matter how the situation unfolds. Suddenly the ground shakes and walls emerge from it. One of the Guardians calls for the captain and finds him, but the captain tries to kill him. As he looks up, he spots an insect on the captain's head. It flies toward his eye and kills him instantly. Bai Zhuang thanks Yifan for saving her. The Wanderer intends to kill them one by one. Bai asks if he can feel the invisible threads around them. He says he can, but his energy won't be drained. Bai envies him for being able to stay alive, but Yifan doesn't see his ability as a gift. He suggests they give up if they can't escape, but Bai insists it is still possible to leave. She uses her ability to collapse the lifeless walls. She calls for the leader, and after the walls crumble, they reunite with Hanjan and Xia. Bai explains how she has done it, but suddenly a massive rocky fist emerges behind Xia and Yifan. Hanjan quickly destroys it and gets them out of harm's way. A giant rock monster appears, summoned by the Wanderer, sending shockwaves in every direction. They realize they have to destroy the Wanderer's body, which has merged with the dark world after releasing the veil, leaving behind a dark sphere. The monster can only be killed after breaking the sphere. Yifan and Bai decide to cover for their leader, so he can break the sphere. Yifan charges at the monster, taking the hit in his immortal form. He tells Hanjan to hurry, as he can only withstand 6 hits. Hanjan shouts, calling upon the power of the 6 Divine Guardians. The 6 Divine Guardians are summoned, and they unleash their thunderous spirit energy onto the dark sphere, which cracks and disintegrates. Yifan sees that they've won, but Hanjan appears behind him, telling him to run. In front of them stands a fully grown Wanderer, with Bai Shuang by his side, laughing at them. She had disguised the Wanderer with lies and kept him hidden until the right moment to finish them off. Hanjan confirms that she has been parasitized by the eroding worm, judging by the insect shadow he saw in her eyes for the 2nd time. The worm is a 4th-tier insect species that causes brain erosion, taking control of the person's mind. The worm can reproduce on its own, and in Blue Star's history, a 7th-tier guardian was once affected by it, causing massive losses and destruction until he was killed with great effort and resources. This species was supposed to have been eradicated by the 1st District War Zone long ago. Ivan asks Hanjan to escape while he covers him with his immortal form, but Hanjan gets ready to attack. With their slow speed, they can't escape the Black Veil, which has now spread tenfold after absorbing the dead Wanderer. He asks Yifan to buy him some time to play his song and begins healing his wounds. The Wanderer attacks him during this, under Bai's command, but Yifan thwarts the strike. Bai uses her power of lies to make Yifan's immortality appear fake, but Yi punches her away. As he does, the worm emerges from her and attacks his arm, reducing his immortality limit to just 2 uses. He crushes the worm. The Wanderer is impressed and challenges him further by attacking, but Yifan blocks the strike again. Hanjan tells Yue and Yifan to handle the eroding worm while he goes after the Wanderer himself. He opens the first level of the 8 quick fist technique, not expecting to have to unleash his full potential, but knowing he needs to right now, he strikes. The Wanderer narrowly dodges the destructive 8-fist attack, impressed by Hanjan's strength at such a young age. He pulls a sword from his mouth and tests him even more. Hanjan counters the incoming attack with the powerful defense of his gauntlet. The Wanderer wonders why Hanjan possesses the gauntlet that killed one of their Zerg kings a decade ago. It can only be wielded by a strong guardian. Hanjan acknowledges that he might not be the strongest, but he's not fighting a Zerg king either. He charges at the Wanderer with all his strength and they exchange blows, both of them taking hits. The Wanderer thinks that whoever gave Hanjan the gauntlet would surely mourn the loss of his life. Desperate, Hanjan knows he can't win if the Wanderer absorbs the energy of the young one. He wagers his life, now truly understanding the meaning of between life and death. Not wanting to waste time, he unlocks the rest of the 8 fists and attacks with all he's got. He lands a hit in the center of the Wanderer's chest, seemingly destroying him. But the Wanderer reforms himself, and Bai Shuang is nowhere to be found. The Wanderer sends out a chain attack to trap them, then hurls a meteor at them. Ivan, relying on his immortality, blocks the meteor. He tells them to leave, as his immortal strength is now depleted, and he can't hold on for long. Suddenly, a massive fist is summoned from above, using only the power of the 6th of the 8 fists, and it smashes the Wanderer beneath it. Team 0527 is shocked to see Li Shutong come to their aid. Hanjan looks at him with relief before fainting from his injuries. Li instructs the team to take Hanjan back while he stays behind to clean up, which of course involves dealing with the eroding worm. Hanjan wakes up in the city hospital, screaming and worried about his teacher. Xia is relieved to see him finally awake and explains that after he fainted, the teacher started clearing out the eroding worms, but couldn't finish because the queen worm was still missing. They brought him back to the hospital for treatment. Yifan, who had been in the ICU, did his best to hold back the meteor, but his bones were broken in the process. He could have died if it weren't for his immortality ability. Suddenly, a nurse informs them that Yifan has disappeared while he was supposed to be recovering. She adds that the teacher had asked them to clear out the remaining worms on their own. Since Bai Shuang was the key link to the worms, Yifan must have gone to find her. The 4-tier worms can multiply on their own, and the only way to kill them is by taking out the queen worm, as Yifan would know. Additionally, the Guardian organization had deducted 100 points from all teams because the teacher himself had completed the task. The other teams didn't fight on the front lines like they did, so it didn't seem fair. The organization also took the Wanderer's corpse. Lastly, their teacher had said that no one should interfere in this matter. Hanjan understood that the teacher was clearly on their team's side. He and Jia immediately leave to settle things. The teams under Zhao Hu are thrilled to receive the materials from the 4-tier Zerg on his orders, without having to do any work themselves. Hanjan walks in and calls for Zhao Hu to come out. One of Zhao Hu's underlings tries to mess with him, attacking with a knife, but Hanjan shuts him down with a single slap, remarking that he had it coming with his face. The other underlings are stunned and try to record the scene to get him into trouble. The beaten underling attacks again, but Hanjan slams him repeatedly until he's interrupted by Zhao Hu. Zhao Hu asks what his problem is. Hanjan demands an apology for himself and his team. Zhao Hu refuses and orders his underling to send the video to headquarters. However, the reply they get is that it's an internal matter of the organization. The supervisory department doesn't take it seriously either, and even suggests hiring Hanjan for his impressive skills. Zhao Hu throws a tantrum but eventually gives up. Hanjan presses for an apology again, this time demanding the right to take valuable materials from the organization's vault. Zhao Hu thinks the request is unreasonable, but Hanjan assures him that he won't be able to take much with his hands anyway. If Zhao Hu turns him down, it would mean he doesn't want to apologize. Zhao Hu agrees, but on the condition that Hanjan himself goes and only uses his hands. Hanjan accepts, assuring him that he'll only use his hands while glancing at his ring. Zhao Hu and the others are waiting outside the vault while Hanjan is inside. Zhao Hu isn't too worried, since Han is just a recent graduate who probably wouldn't be able to sort through the thousands of items effectively. Even if Han did find some treasures, he wouldn't be able to carry much. Inside the vault, Hanjan uses the treasure appraisal notebook he got from his senior brother to identify valuable items among the countless objects. There are skeletons and cadavers of legendary 3+ tier insects, eternal plants, and a 6-tier crab shell he can use to craft defensive gear. He wants them all, so he takes everything and stores them in his ring. An hour later, Hanjan walks out, looking empty-handed, and leaves with Xia shortly after. Zhao Hu calls the manager to find out how much Han took. At first he hears 5 items. Zhao thinks that's a bit much, but figures they'll get back their payment with interest. However, the manager clarifies that Han actually took 50% of the vault, not just 5 items. Zhao is shocked. If it had been just 1 or 2 items, they might have been able to hide it from the organization. But now, Zhao plans to inform them to ensure he's punished for taking so much. He asks his underling, Xiao Wang, to report it to headquarters, but Xiao Wang tells him he already did. They let Han off with just a "he did well" remark. Zhao is left dumbfounded. Hanjan is certain that this will teach Zhao not to act so arrogantly next time. Suddenly, Xia walks over and with a flirtatious tone suggests they go to bed together. Since Han was injured last time, she says she's worried about losing him and can't let him slip away again. Before anything can happen, they're interrupted by an unknown girl who appears before them, complaining about the noise. Curious about who she is, they find out that she's Lingjun, their teacher's granddaughter. Hanjan checks her spirit abilities and discovers that she's E rank. Her form is the Shenung Cauldron, one of the ancient divine artifacts. Lingjun then asks if she can take her clothes off, explaining that she wears them for inspiration for her work as a popular online novelist. She asks Xia if she's going to continue what they were doing, and if not, she's happy to take her place. Shai is taken aback and stops her, asking why she's so eager despite not having any emotional connection with Han. Lingjun wonders why Xia thinks that's necessary to form a spirit contract. She steps back in realization. Hanjan confirms that Lingjun indeed possesses divinity, and he can help her awaken a second time through a contract. Lingjun is thrilled to hear this and gets right into it. Lingjun jumps at Hanjan after taking off her clothes. He stops her, asking what that has to do with signing the contract. She explains that, as a best-selling author, contracts in her books are always sealed after close contact. They both exhale at her behavior. Han decides to show her how it's actually done. He unlocks her Shenung Cauldron divine form, and she immediately feels warm from the rush of energy. Her divine form can refine spiritual materials and extract their energy. It'll help Han break through to higher levels. He asks her to test it out right away. Yue leaves the room to get some water. On her way back, she hears strange noises. Flustered, she barges in, only to find Han Zhan putting Zerg materials into Lingzhen's cauldron form. The materials are instantly refined, producing spiritual energy pills that can boost a consumer's energy by 1%. Han applauds Lingzhen. She, on the other hand, jumps on him and begs him to put out the alchemy fire inside her. Caught off guard, he grabs Yue for help, and they all end up doing it together. Han wakes up exhausted, while both women feel satisfied and full of energy. He now plans to investigate the Queen Worm and track down Yifan and Bai Shuang. Yue shows Lingzhen a photo of Bai, and Lingzhen recognizes her. Bai used to visit the same famous bar in Deep Blue City as Lingzhen. That clue decides their next destination. Before they head out, Han Zhan sprays hawthorn flower essence on them. The scent will trigger erratic behavior in nearby worms. When they reach the bar, they ask about Hongyuan Wei, Bai's fake name. The bartender smirks, clearly knowing exactly who they're talking about. Upon hearing the words Hongyuan Wei, everyone looks over and starts celebrating. The announcement just confirmed that the new guests will be paying for everyone's drinks, as promised. Han Zhan is confused and asks what's going on. The bartender explains. A guest who came in yesterday drank a lot and said that whoever mentioned Hong Wei would end up booking the whole place and covering his tab. It could only have been Yifan. The bartender also hands them a box Yifan left behind. Inside is a note detailing the division of the Queen Worm, dating back to February. That's when the first squad's captain, Yiming, was assigned to handle it. After the mission, he came back and the whole team went out to celebrate, at this bar. Later, Zhao Wu took over the operation. Since the worm reproduces and splits every month, there should be 7 of them by now. Suddenly, Han Zhan excuses himself to use the restroom. While doing his business, another man standing there inquires about the strange smell of heath flowers, and, all of a sudden, tries to attack Han Zhan. Han Zhan blocks the attack and throws him back, making the worm jump out. Han Zhan catches it and destroys it on the spot. Xia and Lingzhen rush in just after. Han Zhan tells them the man was infected, and he was the owner of the ballroom bar. That leaves 6 worms. Lingzhen suggests that those close to Yiming, the main character, might also be infected, if they follow her pattern of story writing. They set off to look for more clues. On the way, Han Zhan is attacked again, this time by another infected person. He defeats him and kills the worm that emerges. Xia recognizes the man as one of Zhao Hu's subordinates. That's when everything falls in place. Everyone infected so far, all have been to this ballroom bar. The worm and Bai Shuang, killed by Yifan, the bar owner. Zhao Hu's subordinate, they're all tied to Zhao Hu, the current first team captain. That had to be where Yifan was heading. Yifan storms into Zhao Hu's office, clearly furious, catching him in the middle of a private session. Yifan accuses Zhao Hu of killing Yiming, usurping his position as first squad captain, using the erosion worm to oppress talented spirit masters and bonders, and then having the nerve to roam around freely afterwards. Zhao Hu recognizes him as Yiming's incompetent brother, and mocks him for coming after him instead of sulking over his girlfriend Bai Shuang's death. Each of them vows to settle the score. Zhao Hu snaps back, saying it was Bai Shuang's own lack of resolve and luck that got her killed. His reinforcements are already surrounding Yifan, and Zhao orders them to execute him for attacking a key member of the Guardians organization. Yifan is caught off guard when they all move in to strike, but their weapons are suddenly destroyed by Han Zhan as he arrives on the scene. Guilty ones accuse first, Han Zhan mocks as he throws them all back. Yifan asks why he came. Apparently, they couldn't just sit back and let the others beat him down. The reinforcements demand to know why Han Zhan is defending the assassin Yifan and obstructing orders. Han Zhan tells them to back off, saying it's a personal matter between him and Zhao. They refuse and try to kill him, but Han Zhan takes them all down effortlessly. Yifan notices that Han Zhan's martial arts have improved a lot in a short time. Zhao Hu tries to escape, but Han Zhan is behind him in an instant. He strikes lethally, forcing the erosion worm out of Zhao and killing it, but it's not the Queen Worm. Zhao's subordinates gather at the scene, accusing Han Zhan of having the guts to kill a captain when the Guardians organization doesn't hold the highest authority in Deep Blue City, the City Lord does. Han Zhan has walked right into a trap. An hour earlier, in the City Lord's office, his assistant screams in horror as the Queen Worm emerges from the City Lord's head. Sensing more trouble, Han Zhan tells the others to leave immediately and find their teacher for help, while he leaves to deal with the City Lord alone, despite Jia's protests. The City Lord orders Han Zhan's arrest for the assassination of the acting captain of Squad 1 in the Guardians organization. Good for him, Han Zhan took the bait so quickly. Han Zhan leaves the building but is confronted by an old, powerful spirit master who forces him to kneel for killing an important member of the organization. Meanwhile, Li Shutong is in the middle of a meeting with an old friend. Li asks about his intentions, but the man simply says he should hurry because the successor he chose is set to be executed tomorrow, with undeniable evidence stacked against him. A tiger behind Li growls, ready to attack, but the old friend calmly assures him that it can't attack his one of many quantum avatars their teacher left for them. He warns that there are more surprises coming, then the avatar vanishes. Ling Xuan, now in his human form, asks the teacher if he's really going to save the junior student. Li says he's been ignoring the chaos inside the organization for far too long. They think they can use Zhao Hu to lure Han Zhan and in turn control Li, but Li knows he can count on Han Zhan, and with him, they can turn the tide. Back where Han is being held, the old man who captured him tries to force a confession, saying that Li Shutong won't come to save him. He gives Han two choices: join them, or get split in half by the guillotine. But Han Zhan knows the truth, that the fourth stage erosion worm was deliberately discovered by Yi Ming and brought into the city. The old man asserts that the worm isn't an enemy, but a powerful tool. Han Zhan replies that he'll take a third option, but the old man just threatens him with death again. The next day, news of Han Zhan's crime and upcoming execution is broadcast all over the city. The city lord is informed that the execution will proceed shortly, and that the other three who escaped still haven't been found. They're likely hiding in their teacher's mansion. He looks down at Han Zhan, wondering how he can stay so calm. Han was ordered to let it happen by the teacher, possibly to set a trap. Around the city, people talk about the SSS-level talent who went rogue, saying he couldn't stand being sent to the organization. The city lord addresses the people in person, lying that Han Zhan betrayed the city by killing innocents and colluding with the insect tribe. The lie quickly gains public support for the execution, which the lord finds amusing. He gives the order to proceed. At that exact moment, the guillotine suddenly stops midway, interrupting the execution, much to the city lord's dismay. Right then, Shan Siting of the Shang family shows up and voices her disapproval of the execution. So do Xia, Lingjun, and Yi Fan, as they all take off their disguises. As the mysterious old friend of the teacher proclaims that no one can save Han Zhan now, Li simply replies that it's too early to draw conclusions. The old friend takes that as a challenge and vanishes. Li talks to Shang Siting's grandfather over the walkie-talkie, who tells him they failed to uncover the friend's true identity since he escaped too quickly. He initially suspects old Shang, but Shang isn't happy about being accused. After all, he was the one who sent his granddaughter to stop the execution. As for the organization behind this, Shang refers to a group called Dawnbreak. The public is shocked by the involvement, let alone the Shang family stepping in to stop the execution. Siting proclaims Han Zhan's innocence to the public and how they are being deceived. She shows them footage of Han Zhan proudly defending humanity as a spirit master while fighting off insect monsters. The public watches in confusion, wondering how someone so patriotic could possibly be a traitor. The old spirit master who captured Han Zhan silences everyone, radiating intense energy. He's hell-bent on completing the execution, calling it a crucial Dawnbreak mission. He sends a giant flaming hand toward Han Zhan, who is still stuck in the guillotine, but the hand is destroyed mid-air, and the attacker is blown back. The blast came from Li Shutong. The city lord himself charges at Han Zhan. Now free, Han swiftly dodges and uses his speed to strike back as he punches the city lord, sending him crashing to the ground. The erosion queen worm flies out of the city lord's head. Han Zhan tells everyone about the erosion worm he's holding in his hand, how it tried to stir up confusion and chaos among humanity. He kills it and declares that he'll protect humanity, no matter what people think of him. The civilians feel relieved at his timely intervention. Just then, Li Shutong shows up and asks if Han Zhan got to experience the line between life and death this time. Han Zhan thanks him for the help, but says he'd prefer to be the one making the moves next time. Lai congratulates him for killing the queen worm and mentions that others have been found too. Unfortunately, they've lost track of Dawnbreak again, the organization that has infiltrated their ranks of guardians. Yifan arrives at the scene and informs them that Bai Shuang's body has been found, and a sea burial is being planned for her and the 1,000 people who died during the incident. Together, they solemnly see the caskets off at the shore, Han Zhan feeling the weight of guilt for not being able to save her, but it seems uncertain if she's really gone. Autumn arrives. Han Zhan, Ling Zhen, Xia, and Siting share a meal with their teacher. Li asks if they've broken into the third tier after the worm incident. As expected, Han Zhan, Xia, and Ling Zhen have all been upgraded to SSS third tier. Siting asks Han Zhan if he can form a contract with her too. He replies that he only forms contracts with spirits that have divine attributes, so they'll have to see. Lai tells them that after reaching the third tier, there's not much left to train in the rear cities. He asks Han Zhan about his future plans. Han Zhan says he wants to keep getting stronger and carve his own path through this insect apocalypse. Li acknowledges his ambition and decides to send him by plane to the frontline battlefield for further training. The first war zone is currently in the middle of the biggest battle of the year against the insect species. Li informs Ya and Ling Zhen that they can't accompany Han Zhan, since their cultivation method is different from that of contract masters and needs different arrangements. On the front lines of Daxia, the battle rages on against high-tier insect zergs, with cannons and heavy weapons in use. Squad Captain Xiaoya pulls back and sends his injured teammates to the infirmary. Another squad captain, Old John, asks him why he's waiting for reinforcements when he only lost 2 out of 5 men, reminding him that John's own team lost 3. This irritates Xiao, who snaps back that he's here for an elite mission, not some regular deployment. Soon after, Hanjan arrives at the battlefield and introduces himself as the new soldier. Xiao asks about his contract spirit and is surprised to hear that Hanjan left them at home. Xiao scolds him for showing up alone, saying he must have a death wish. Old John steps in to calm him down, pointing out that Hanjan is probably a nobleman from the city, not just a combat spirit master from a nearby camp, judging by his clothes and skin. Xiao reluctantly agrees. Xiao asks Old John if he can take the new soldier onto his team, but Old John turns him down. Xiao had already promised to be the first one to pick. Xiao sighs and calls over Hanjan so he can meet his new team members. He introduces himself first, a 4th-level master and the captain of his new team. Then he introduces the others, Kai Shifang and Shi Xiaqian. Kai's complaining about getting soaked during their last mission and asks Hanjan to help her take off her wet clothes, which he does hesitantly. She's surprised he didn't bring his spirit contract along. Hanjan introduces himself and pulls out some artifacts stored in his ring, gifts for the team. He gives them all level 6 armor. Kai and Shi are thrilled to receive such valuable gear and quickly start warming up to him. Xiao turns the armor down since he's a mecha operator, but the high-level gifts and the storage ring definitely make him wonder which noble family Hanjan belongs to. Xiao tells the rest of them to head out while he brings the next task briefing and supplies. As they walk, Hanjan asks about Xiao. The others explain that he lost his spirit contract, Qiling, on the front lines. The war zone reassigned him to mecha duty so he could keep fighting. Nonetheless, Xiao can't stand high-ranking officials who just sit around doing nothing. When Xiao returns with the supplies, he orders them to stop wasting time and get moving. Their mission is the complete extermination of the Izanami Serpent clan. The enemy's reinforcement speed is insane, so even with a battle damage ratio of 100-1, it's still not enough to slow them down. For the longest time, the first war zone was deadlocked against the clan's elite forces. But a month ago, Wei Qing, the head of the first district, managed to shift the tide. He shattered ancient barriers and single-handedly cut through enemy reinforcements, pushing the damage ratio to a terrifying 100,000-1. Eventually, he ran into Tier 8 serpents, and the fight moved elsewhere. Now the latest missions are coming from the second war zone. Using their divination abilities, they located dozens of serpent nests. Teams with the highest mobility and proximity are being sent out to destroy them. Xiao's team is one of them. They set off right away, staying on high alert like Xiao told them. As they get closer, they come across a massive 6,130-meter-long molt that serpents shed each time they evolve to a higher tier. Billions of serpent eggs are attached to it. Suddenly, the eggs start cracking, unleashing shockwaves powerful enough to send Xiao's mecha flying back. Hanjan rushes after him to save him. Despite Xiao's protest to leave him and complete the mission, Hanjan grabs his mecha before it falls and throws it above the cliff so it lands safely. Xiao is surprised by his immense strength. While everyone assumes Hanjan has fallen to his death, judging by the height of the cliff, he climbs back up, alive. Everyone breathes a sigh of relief. Xiao warns him again to stay focused on eliminating the serpent nest. The eggs have already hatched, and the baby serpents are closing in for an attack. Captain Xiao orders the others to retreat while he holds them off, though the situation looks pretty hopeless due to their large numbers. Just then, Hanjan uses the power of his ring to fire a beam at the serpent horde. The serpents freeze in their tracks, then suddenly bow, shocking everyone. Hanjan gives the signal, and Xiao uses the flamethrower built into his mecha to burn them all. Hanjan's teammates cheer, including Xiao, who realizes Hanjan is different from the other noble sons, and he's not just some third-rank spiritual master. Right then, Xiao receives a transmission. The overall mission to eradicate the serpent nests hasn't gone well. Their team is one of the only 10 that actually succeeded, thanks to Hanjan. The nest points are marked on the operation map. The freshly hatched serpents will likely follow key paths, which they can use to hunt them down and wipe them out using Hanjan's ability before the reinforcements can reach the battlefield. But before they can wipe them out, they're more likely to get wiped out by the 5th-tier serpent nest guardian that has just appeared in front of them. The snake's nest guardian is huge. Hanjan shouts at his team to run. They try to escape quickly while Xiao stays back to cover the rear with an attack. But the attack does nothing. The snake crushes the mecha in its mouth and Xiao falls out of it. Kai and Shi stare in horror as the snake turns to eat them. It fails, thanks to the 6th-tier armors they're wearing. But then the snake spits a strange liquid that penetrates the armor, and they both disintegrate and die on the spot. Hanjan freezes as the snake approaches him next. Cursing, he summons his instrument using the urgent unlock technique while dodging its strike. He plays the Dragon Soar's maneuver tune, sending out strong wind attacks, but it still isn't enough to kill the 5th-tier guardian. Hanjan falls back to catch his breath, but before he can recover, the snake appears in front of him again, only to get killed by a sudden sword stab through its head. A contract spirit lands on top of the corpse. Hanjan thanks the senior for saving him. She laughs and compliments him, then corrects him with a proper introduction. She is Gongyang Jin, from the City of Extreme Evil, also known as the Land of Exile. not a senior from Daxia. The so-called lower district, infamous as a concentration camp for those too evil to be accepted by any nation. Their evil lies in the selfishness and disregard for others when it comes to achieving their goals by any means. To his shock, he discovers she's an SSS level 8th tier spirit with the Valkyrie trait. She asks him about the song he played, saying it amplified her energy to insane levels. She appears behind him and announced that she's taking him with her as her exclusive combat support. Han-jan flatly refuses to go with her, which he finds surprisingly brave coming from a mere 3rd-tier spirit master. He adds that his mission isn't complete yet, and if she tries to force him, he'll take his own life. She eventually gives up and asks what she can do to convince him to come with her. He senses that she likes him, so he figures he might as well use her help to eliminate the newly hatched Izanagi insect swarm. She accepts the request without much thought. He shows her a map, marking 3 nearby locations where they can intercept the hatchlings and then coordinate with the great Daxia forces for the final battle. The mission is no big deal for her, though all of a sudden she starts writhing in pain. Her old wound is acting up, releasing a dark aura. She tells him to back off. He uses his instrument to shower her with purity powder, which immediately heals the wound. He asks how she got it in the first place. She explains that she was injured by a 9th-tier insect emperor. She barely escaped with her life. The emperor is called Mo, and the aura it left behind still has the power to control her killing instincts. He asks if he can take a look, which she finds a little bold, but with a warning, she allows him anyway. The wound isn't deep and can be treated. He uses the instrument again, applying more healing powder to suppress the aura, though it doesn't fully dispel it. Then, he summons the material form of the Shenung cauldron, impressing her with the fact that he has 2 spirit contracts. He tosses all the dead snakes into the cauldron and uses his own life genesis ability to absorb their essence and heal her wound, though only partially. She likes the sensation and asks if he can do it again, but he can't, as it would require the same amount of insect flesh and blood. Luckily, their next mission is to intercept the Izanagi hatchlings anyway. She grabs him excitedly as they head off toward the marked location together. The headquarters monitor the large number of young snake hordes flooding near the gorge entrance, apparently discovered too late. General Guanshan and Qiling are more than capable of blocking the entrances, but they've already been sent to deal with the never-ending reinforcements. The insect race is clearly well prepared, seeing as they've kept forcing them to send out many of their high-level combatants. So, Ling Xuan sends an urgent, secret order to the 8 war zones to hold their positions. Han Zhan and Gongyang Jin have already reached the entrance where the snake hatchlings are gathered. Jin gets ready to jump right in, but Han Zhan stops her as he wants to handle them himself. He charges in and fights the snake horde with full energy. She's surprised, but let him fight, seeing he'll be fine with her around. Back at headquarters, the battle coordinators watch in shock, thinking he's basically walking into death by going alone. Han Zhan defeats a lot of them, but since he didn't train in the 8 urgency fist early on, he starts getting overwhelmed by the large numbers. Jin jumps in to help, sending destructive energy in all directions with her sword, but Han Zhan insists he can still fight. He unlocks the 3rd of the 8 urgency fist techniques. He tests out the life punch's power, instantly destroying a snake horde. Jin's impressed and joins in. The district heads observe in awe, wondering who the woman is. Ling Xuan explains her background, how she fought District Head Wei Qing a month ago and was defeated by him and his wife, but never left the Izaki battlefield afterward, and now ending up hanging around with their junior brother. Han Zhan and Jin finish off all the hatchlings, and he uses their corpses to perform vitality creation again on her wounds. When they start, he notices a black thorn embedded inside the wound. With her permission, he pulls it out, and they complete the healing.